Hello, Lisa talking again. This is a really quick, unplanned video about the comments of Joe Biden, the US president, to the UK over the kind of threats to the Good Friday Agreement presented by Brexit. Now, I've put underneath the video that I did about the process by which we ended up leaving the European Union. This was a referendum that was put forward by David Cameron to deal with a non-existent political threat by UKIP. It was then Article 50 was triggered by Theresa May, who didn't know that she'd committed to a negotiation timetable, and we've basically danced ourselves out of the door and behaved very, very badly. Now, on the whole, the country will actually manage this. We will get through this transition. We are a very strong and stable economy, and actually we will be redefining our relationship with Europe over the long course. But today, Joe Biden, well, it might have been yesterday actually, there have been comments where Joe Biden has insisted that the UK address the impact of Brexit on Northern Ireland. Now, I kind of spent much of my teens in a place in southwest Scotland that was very much impacted by the Troubles, and I actually lived there during the period before the Good Friday Agreement, and actually in the period where it was the first time we forget in this country this was a war. This was a war that went over a very, very long time with very, very deep roots. Some of the murals that are in Northern Ireland are representative of periods covered by the Stuart dynasty. This was very, very deep-rooted stuff, and we are part of a generation where my generation grew up thinking it would never end, and then it did. And it ended because a lot of people from all sides came together and actually made it end, because Northern Ireland needed it to end. And the Brexit proposal was put forward at all stages without even consideration of Northern Ireland. Our opposition party were trying to spin their kind of appalling actions, actually Jeremy Corbyn's appalling actions during this period, as him somehow being involved in the peace process, and nobody held the government to account over the impact on Northern Ireland until it was too late. So this is a very, very serious situation. Now, the politicians who are in Northern Ireland are actually politicians who in their lifetime, this was a war, and they understand the seriousness of this. And in actual fact, Ireland itself may do very well out of Brexit. Dublin should get, quite a lot of the kind of offload as kind of London's premium kind of ends. They should actually benefit from this, and we may end up seeing a united Ireland. But what Joe Biden's comments are really important to understand is they indicate a changed relationship between the UK and the US, and a changed relationship with the UK and the rest of the world. He is in a position where he is having to address the dysfunction that was exposed by President Trump, and the Twitter toxicity and juvenility that has impacted the US. He has to mark a change from. But the ability of the US to do this is very different to the UK. The US are still the major power in the world, whereas our strategic significance has changed very significantly. Now, we are obsessed. No, we are not, actually. I'm not saying we. Our political press are obsessed with the special relationship between the UK and the US. When Obama was saying that the US had to focus their strategic priorities on the Pacific Basin, all we heard was, he's not our friend anymore. And we are used to a position where we have been hanging on the tailcoats of US dominance in the 20th century, and this has given us status. This was Joe Biden treating us like toddlers, because he has to show that the US is able to do this, so that the US can kind of recover from the damage that Trump has done to their international reputation. He is having to mark a change in the way the US approaches the world. And that includes not only a very dramatically changing relationship with Israel, I imagine, after the incidents under Trump, but also a changed relationship with the UK. And his comments are about basically showing that we have just been subordinated. We are no longer at that level. Now, the UK has applied to join the the Comprehensive Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a trade pact with a free trade bloc which covers the Pacific Basin. And this is a very important moment to actually begin to start to redefine our relationship with the world. In my series about what's keeping the UK stable, we're still a stable, strong and pragmatic economy, and we should be able to do this. But what we see with the fallout from Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson is the immaturity that's locked into Westminster by this media culture that's also playing out visibly on Twitter all the time, with the use of trolls and psychopaths and literally behaving like organised criminals and exposing all the dysfunction at the core of Westminster for the world to see. And what Joe Biden's comments indicate is actually the US is changing their relationship with us. We've just been smacked down like toddlers and told if we do not sort it out, we are not having any sweets after our tea. And we need to actually look at the present, the UK press. I noticed that the Daily Express is encouraging people to boycott EU goods at a point where we need to redefine our relationship with the EU. And this culture on Twitter haven't noticed that the political press's tribalism, the left-right day, is done. Labour are no longer electable, and one of the key things that Jeremy Corbyn did was his ill-advised and his kind of supporters ill-advised kind of attempts to rewrite what had happened in Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland Peace Agreement, the Good Friday Agreement, I remember very, very clearly this period. I remember Belfast with people with guns on street corners, and I remember a generation of people like my peers at school who could not imagine that there would ever be a period where they did not live in a war zone. Their children do not live in a war zone because of the actions of the people around the Good Friday Agreement, and one of the most criminal aspects of Brexit was our failure to consider the impact on Northern Ireland. So Joe Biden has actually kind of forced us to consider Northern Ireland, who are actually one of the poorest regions in the country, in a way that we should have been doing naturally as part of these democratic processes. But he has also basically told the world that he is willing to smack the UK down like children. And we are now going to note the silence from the world as they actually are grateful that he has done this. If we cannot address the dysfunction that is on display in this culture of media organisations, The Guardian, The Telegraph, The Spectator, The New Statesman, The Daily Express, The Daily Mail, the papers nobody reads, if we cannot address the dysfunction that they are projecting to the world, the other factors that we have that make us a strong and stable and pragmatic economy will no longer matter. And what Joe Biden's comments indicate is that the US is changing its relationship with the UK. And the UK is now being seen on the world stage like children who need to be reprimanded and sent to bed without supper. Now, there is no danger of World War III. We might have naval boats off Jersey, and we might have like political press who are kind of, I don't even know what you would call it, jeering like they think World War III is coming. This is not the case. The EU are a major power bloc on the Eurasian steppe as the world turns east. They have had a barrier to further integration removed. Their relationship with the US is just fine. The US will do just fine, and they will focus on the Pacific Basin and renewing their relationship with Europe. But this country is in a process right now where we have to redefine a relationship for ourselves. And if we are having to be smacked down by the US president like toddlers at tea time because the world needs to see that, then we really are going to have to prepare for economic kind of straits coming. We are going to have to prepare for our borrowing costs rising, and the false arguments put about a deficit that justified austerity, which led to this situation, become real. But we no longer have a political climate where austerity of that type could be justified. Now, in the Treasury, we've got kind of actually a half-decent kind of Chancellor, and I think we're probably, there are two strands with government. Government are not like opposition. They are not only influenced by Westminster media culture, they also have what's going on behind closed doors from all the other institutions. And the question at present is whether we can sort out the immaturity in Westminster generated by this media culture who are locked in a digital bubble on Twitter. And what Joe Biden's comments indicate is the world is not waiting for us to sort that. And we are a very easy way for the US to say that they have accepted the problems that Trump demonstrated, and they are a grown-up power. But we are rapidly losing the ability to do that if we cannot pull these people into check. That was an Unplanned video. I will still be back on Sunday with my discussion of Turkey, and I will still be back next week with my review of Capital in the 21st Century. Thank you for watching.